Welcome. We have traveled back through the millennia, and the air here is thick with moisture and mystery. We stand now in the heart of the Gulf Coast lowlands of southern Mexico, surrounded by dense tropical jungle where something extraordinary first emerged over 3,000 years ago. The Olmec, America's first civilization. The people who carved mountains into portraits and built the foundation upon which all later Mesoamerican cultures would rise. Look at what surrounds us. Colossal stone heads weighing up to 50 tons, their faces individualized with such precision that we can still read the expressions of rulers whose names have been lost to time. Massive earthen pyramids rising over 100 feet from the jungle floor. Jade carvings depicting mysterious were-jaguar figures that blend human and animal into something divine. These are not random artifacts. They are the fingerprints of genius, the first chapter in a story that would echo through the Maya, the Zapotec, the Aztec, and every civilization that followed. Over the next 8 episodes, we will journey through the complete story of the Olmec, from their mysterious emergence around 1500 BCE to their transformation by 400 BCE. We will witness the founding of San Lorenzo, the first great ceremonial center, and watch as thousands of laborers transport basalt boulders 60 miles through rivers and swamps. We will stand in the sacred plazas of La Venta, where priests conducted rituals that connected earth to sky. We will explore how ordinary people lived, what they ate, how they traded jade and obsidian across networks stretching 1,000 miles. We will uncover why these magnificent centers were deliberately abandoned, their monuments buried in rituals whose meaning still puzzles archaeologists. And we will trace how Olmec innovations in writing, calendar systems, architecture, and the sacred ball game became the blueprint for 3 millennia of civilization. This is not just history. This is the origin story of an entire cultural tradition. What the Olmec created here, in these steaming lowlands, shaped everything that came after. By the end of this series, you will understand not just what happened, but how a civilization rose from the jungle, achieved greatness, and left a legacy that still resonates today. If you enjoy these complete journeys through lost civilizations, please subscribe. Each week we unlock another door to the ancient past and tell the full story, from beginning to end. Let us begin our journey into the world of the Olmec, where America's first civilization awaits. The morning mist rises from the Coatzacoalcos River, revealing a landscape where water and earth merge into fertile possibility. Around 1500 BCE, in the sweltering lowlands of Mexico's Gulf Coast, something unprecedented stirs beneath the jungle canopy. The volcanic peaks of the Tuxtla Mountains pierce the horizon to the south, their basalt slopes holding secrets that will transform stone into legacy. The floodplains stretch across 7,000 square miles, a maze of rivers, lagoons, and seasonal wetlands where the Tonalá and Coatzacoalcos carve channels through rich alluvial soil. Each annual flood deposits layers of nutrients, creating earth so fertile that a single planting season yields abundance. Wild cacao trees cluster along riverbanks. Rubber trees, Castilla elastica, weep white latex when scored. The jungle teems with deer, peccary, jaguar, and countless birds whose calls echo through the canopy at dawn. In scattered clearings, small communities cultivate the first domesticated maize, its kernels still small and primitive compared to what will come. They plant beans that climb the corn stalks, squash that shades the ground, manioc whose starchy roots sustain through dry seasons. The people fish with nets woven from plant fibers, trap river turtles, harvest freshwater snails from the shallows. Their pottery, simple bowls and storage vessels, bears the earliest decorative patterns, incised lines, punctate dots, the suggestion of forms not yet fully realized. Carbon samples from cooking hearths will one day reveal dates clustering around 1500 BCE, marking the threshold when village becomes something more. The settlements grow larger, more permanent. Earthen platforms rise above flood level, supporting structures of pole and thatch. Certain families accumulate surplus, control trade routes, command labor. The first social hierarchies emerge, subtle but unmistakable in burial patterns and dwelling sizes. The people look south to the Tuxtlas, where volcanic stone lies exposed in massive boulders. They navigate rivers in dugout canoes, following routes that will become trade arteries connecting coast to highlands. Jade from distant Guatemala begins appearing in elite burials. Small beads, simple pendants, the green stone already recognized as precious. Obsidian blades from central Mexican sources slice through the humid air, sharper than any local stone. In these centuries before monuments, before colossal heads, before the name Olmec will be spoken, the foundation forms. The agricultural surplus that will feed thousands. The river networks that will transport 50-ton stones. The social organization that will mobilize labor on unprecedented scales. The artistic vision that will transform volcanic rock into portraits of power. The jungle holds its breath, waiting for what comes next. Around 1200 BCE, human ambition transforms a natural ridge into something unprecedented. The plateau rises 150 feet above the surrounding floodplain, but this elevation is no accident of geology. Thousands of laborers reshape the earth itself, moving an estimated 500,000 cubic meters of soil to create an artificial mountain. The summit stretches nearly a mile long, its edges precisely sculpted, its surface leveled to accommodate what will become Mesoamerica's first great ceremonial center. San Lorenzo emerges from collective vision and organized power. Elite compounds cluster near the plateau's center, their foundations faced with stone, their courtyards arranged around monuments that will define Olmec achievement. Beyond these privileged zones, residential terraces descend the slopes in calculated tiers, housing a population that will peak at 13,000 souls. The entire complex speaks of hierarchy made visible, authority written in earth and stone. Water flows through the city in ways that defy the tropical chaos surrounding it. Engineers carve U-shaped troughs from basalt blocks, creating drainage channels that carry rainwater away from plazas and compounds. These conduits, some extending hundreds of feet, represent the first sophisticated hydraulic systems in the Americas. In a landscape where seasonal floods reshape rivers overnight, San Lorenzo imposes order, channeling water with the same precision that will soon transform stone into portraiture. 60 miles to the northwest, in the volcanic Tuxtla Mountains, workers identify basalt boulders of extraordinary size. The selection process requires vision, seeing in raw stone the potential for monuments weighing 24 tons. Teams lever these massive rocks from their mountain beds, beginning journeys that will take months. Log rollers carry the burden overland to river channels. Rafts constructed from tropical hardwoods float the stones downstream, then up tributaries, navigating currents that could crush vessels or sweep cargo into mangrove swamps. At San Lorenzo, the first colossal head takes form. Monument 1 stands 9.4 feet tall, its features emerging from volcanic rock through patient percussion. Stone hammers strike basalt, sand abrasives polish surfaces, and slowly a human face appears. Broad nose, full lips, eyes that gaze with calm authority. The helmet encasing the head displays intricate details: straps, protective padding, decorative elements that identify rank or lineage. This is portraiture, not abstraction. Somewhere in San Lorenzo's elite compounds, a ruler whose name time has erased once possessed this face. 9 more colossal heads follow over the next 3 centuries. Each bears distinct features, different facial structures, unique helmet designs, individual expressions. Monument 2 shows a stern countenance. Monument 4 displays a slight smile. The carvers work without metal tools, without wheels, without beasts of burden, yet achieve a sophistication that will not be surpassed in Mesoamerica for 1,000 years. Beyond the heads, workshops produce monuments of startling variety. Altars show rulers emerging from cave mouths, linking earthly power to the underworld. Stelae depict were-jaguars, beings that merge human and feline in transformations, suggesting shamanic ritual. Jarred carvers work translucent green stone imported from Guatemala, creating celts and figurines for elite patrons. Obsidian nappers produce prismatic blades from volcanic glass, carried 600 males from Pachuca. The organization required staggers comprehension. Feeding 13,000 people demands agricultural surplus on unprecedented scales. Moving 50-ton stones requires hundreds of laborers working in coordinated teams. Carving monuments employs specialists who train for years. Trading networks extending 1,000 miles need merchants, diplomats, and the social structures to maintain relationships across linguistic and cultural boundaries. By 1000 BCE, San Lorenzo reaches its zenith. Over 200 monuments crowd its plazas and compounds. The colossal heads stand sentinel, their stone faces watching ceremonies whose details remain mysterious. In elite residences, jade ornaments catch firelight. In workshops, artisans transform imported materials into objects of power and beauty. The sacred mountain rises from the jungle, proclaiming that humans can reshape earth and stone according to divine vision. What began as possibility has become reality, America's first civilization, fully formed. In the Tuxtla Mountains, 60 miles from San Lorenzo, stone waits. Basalt boulders rest where volcanic forces placed them millennia ago, dense, dark, some weighing 50 tons. Olmec quarry masters study these giants, searching for specific qualities. The stone must be fine-grained enough to hold detail, massive enough to convey power, shaped by nature into forms suggesting human possibility. The selection made, the transformation begins. Workers attack the boulder with stone hammers, percussion flaking away excess material. Days become weeks. The rough form emerges, rounded, suggesting a head, but still locked in mountain stone. Then comes the journey. Log rollers cut from tropical hardwoods line the route. Hundreds of workers coordinate their movements, inching the multi-ton boulder forward. Ropes woven from plant fibers strain. The stone moves perhaps a mile each day. At river's edge, massive rafts wait, logs lashed together with the precision that will define Olmec engineering. The boulder settles onto the raft. Current and human effort propel it downstream, through landscapes where water determines all movement. At San Lorenzo, master carvers take control. They work with stone tools, harder basalt hammers, obsidian flakes for fine detail. Wet sand becomes abrasive, grinding away stone with patient repetition. The face emerges gradually. This is not generic representation. The features are specific, individual. This nose, these lips, these eyes belong to someone who commanded the labor of thousands. Monument 1 stands 9.4 feet tall, weighs 24 tons. The face possesses distinctive features: broad nose, full lips, eyes that gaze with calm authority. The helmet is elaborate, marked with symbols whose meanings remain partially mysterious. Some scholars see ball game protective gear. Others identify royal regalia. The carving reveals both, sport and sovereignty intertwined. 17 such heads will eventually emerge across Olmec sites. Each face differs from the others. Monument 2 shows a ruler with stern expression, helmet decorated with crossed bands. Monument 4 presents a younger face, features softer but no less commanding. These are portraits, the first large-scale portrait sculptures in the Americas, preserving rulers whose names have vanished but whose faces endure. The sculptural tradition extends beyond heads. Altars combine thrones with cosmic symbolism. Rulers emerge from cave mouths representing the Earth's womb, holding rope that binds captives or connects to ancestors. Stele depict were-jaguars, beings transforming between human and feline, embodying shamanic power. Monument 19 at La Venta, 8 feet tall and 24 tons, shows this transformation frozen in stone. Human features melting into jaguar snarl, supernatural power made visible. Jade and serpentine sculptures reveal the same mastery at smaller scale. Celts, axe-shaped objects, bear incised were-jaguar faces, each line cut with obsidian precision. Figurines show ritual scenes, transformation, offering, communication with forces beyond human comprehension. Over 200 artifacts display the were-jaguar motif, suggesting this being occupied central position in Olmec cosmology. The stone speaks across centuries. In these carved faces, individual humans become eternal. In the were-jaguar figures, the boundary between human and divine dissolves. The Olmec masters of stone created not just art, but theology made tangible, power, transformation, and cosmic order carved into volcanic rock that will outlast empires. Around 900 BCE, power shifts southward. San Lorenzo's plazas fall silent, its monuments deliberately buried in ritual acts whose meaning time has obscured. 50 miles away, on an island in the coastal wetlands where the Tonala River meets seasonal swamps, a new center rises to surpass all that came before. La Venta emerges not as replacement, but as culmination. The site occupies a low ridge barely 20 feet above the surrounding marshes. Yet here, the Olmec will create their most ambitious architectural statement. The Great Pyramid, Complex C, rises 110 feet into the tropical sky, its base spanning 490 feet in diameter. Unlike the stepped pyramids that will later dominate Mesoamerica, this structure takes a unique form. 10 ridges radiate from its summit, creating a fluted cone that mirrors the volcanic peaks of the distant Tuxtlas. 100,000 cubic meters of earth, clay, and fill, shaped entirely by human hands carrying basket loads. The pyramid anchors a ceremonial landscape of unprecedented precision. Complex A extends 30 acres along a north-south axis, deviating exactly 8 degrees from true north, a deliberate orientation whose astronomical or cosmological significance remains debated. Earthen platforms define sacred space. Basalt columns, each weighing several tons, transported from quarries 60 miles distant, stand in palisades marking boundaries between mundane and divine. Beneath the plazas, extraordinary offerings wait in darkness. In 1943, archaeologists discover massive mosaic pavements, 50 tons of serpentine blocks arranged in geometric patterns depicting stylized jaguar masks, each element precisely cut and fitted. These elaborate compositions were buried immediately after completion, never meant for human eyes. Offering 1955 reveals another mosaic, equally complex, equally hidden. The labor invested in creating art destined for burial speaks to beliefs modern minds struggle to comprehend. Cruciform chambers hold jade and serpentine treasures. Offering 4 contains 16 figurines, jade and serpentine human forms arranged in ritual scene, facing a single standing figure. Each piece carved with exquisite detail, transported from sources 600 miles away in Guatemala's Motagua Valley. Jade shelts, obsidian blades from Pachuca in central Mexico, magnetite mirrors polished to reflective perfection. Wealth from across Mesoamerica flows to La Venta. Basalt tombs constructed from massive columns shelter elite burials. The stone chambers, their roofs formed by carefully balanced monoliths, contain jade ornaments, stingray spines for bloodletting, ceramic vessels holding offerings consumed by time. 18,000 people inhabit La Venta at its peak, their lives oriented towards the ceremonial center. Farmers cultivate the rich floodplain soils. Artisans work jade, obsidian, and clay in specialized workshops. Traders arrive by river and overland trail, bringing materials and ideas from regions 1,000 miles distant. The site functions as pilgrimage destination, drawing visitors to witness rituals performed in the shadow of the fluted pyramid. Here, the Olmec vision reaches its fullest expression. Monumental architecture, buried offerings, long-distance trade networks, and cosmological precision integrated into sacred landscape that will endure for 5 centuries, until around 400 BCE when La Venta too will fall silent, its monuments buried, its plazas abandoned to the encroaching jungle. In the forest clearings near San Lorenzo, latex drips into clay vessels. Workers make precise cuts in the bark of Castilla elastica trees, harvesting the milky sap that will transform into something unprecedented. The Olmec have discovered how to process this liquid into solid rubber, mixing latex with juice from morning glory vines, heating and kneading until it achieves the perfect elasticity. From this material, they create balls that bounce with supernatural vitality, objects that seem to defy the natural order of stone and earth. The ball court at San Lorenzo, constructed around 1200 BCE, stretches across the ceremonial precinct. Earthen embankments define the playing area, their slopes carefully graded. The rubber ball weighs 8 pounds, dense enough to break bone, yet responsive to the slightest touch of hip, knee, or elbow. Players move across the court in protective gear, thick cotton padding, leather hip yokes that transform the body into instrument of divine contest. This is no mere game. The ball represents the sun moving through the underworld, the eternal struggle between light and darkness, life and death. The court itself becomes a portal between realms, its boundaries marking the threshold where human action intersects with cosmic forces. Victory and defeat carry meanings that transcend sport. They determine agricultural fertility, political legitimacy, the favor of powers beyond human comprehension. At El Manate, the sacred bog, rubber balls rest among wooden busts and jade axes in deposits dating to 1600 BCE. These offerings sink into dark water, gifts to forces dwelling beneath the visible world. The preservation is extraordinary. Rubber surviving 16 centuries in anaerobic conditions, testament to the antiquity of ritual practices. Bloodletting ceremonies unfold in temple chambers. Rulers pierce their tongues, earlobes, genitals with stingray spines and obsidian blades. Monument 34 at San Lorenzo depicts this act, a figure in the throes of ritual sacrifice, blood flowing to nourish the earth and sky. The pain induces altered states, visions that connect the ruler to ancestral powers and cosmic forces. Jade figurines reveal transformation rituals. Human forms shift into jaguar features, elongated canines, snarling mouths, clawed hands. The were-jaguar motif appears across 5 centuries of Olmec art, representing shamanic transformation, the ability of ritual specialists to cross boundaries between human and animal, natural and supernatural. These beings combine human intelligence with jaguar power, embodying the dangerous threshold between ordered civilization and wild forest. In caves penetrating the limestone bedrock, ritual specialists conduct ceremonies beyond public view. Incense smoke rises from ceramic burners. Morning glory seeds, containing compounds that alter consciousness, facilitate journeys into invisible realms. Serpent imagery coils across cave walls, marking these spaces as entrances to the underworld, places where the earth opens to reveal its hidden depths. The cosmology taking shape here will endure for 3 millennia. Jaguars, serpents, and avian deities form a symbolic language expressing fundamental truths about power, transformation, and the relationship between visible and invisible worlds. The ball game becomes central to every subsequent Mesoamerican civilization, played in over 200 courts across the centuries, always carrying the same essential meaning. Human action as cosmic drama, sport as sacred ritual, the ball's movement as the sun's eternal journey through darkness toward light. Beyond the ceremonial centers where colossal heads gaze across plazas, daily life unfolds in rhythms governed by seasons and soil. In the fertile floodplains surrounding San Lorenzo and La Venta, farmers work fields that feed populations numbering 13 to 18,000. Maize plants rise in carefully tended rows, their roots drawing sustenance from earth, enriched by annual floods. Beans climb the corn stalks in symbiotic partnership, while squash spreads broad leaves across the ground below. Manioc grows in raised beds, where drainage prevents rot in the waterlogged lowlands. This agricultural trinity, supplemented by the starchy tuber, sustains a civilization capable of moving mountains. Near the rivers, fishermen cast nets woven from plant fibers, their techniques perfected over generations. Weirs constructed from wooden stakes channel fish into traps during seasonal migrations. Hunters track deer and peccary through forest trails, their obsidian-tipped spears striking with precision born of necessity. The wetlands provide turtles, iguanas, and waterfowl, protein sources that supplement cultivated crops and allow population densities unprecedented in the region's history. In workshops clustered near ceremonial precincts, specialists transform raw materials into objects of utility and beauty. Jade carvers work green stone, brought from Guatemala's Motagua Valley, 600 miles distant. They employ string saws charged with quartz sand, cutting through the dense material with patient repetition. Tubular drills hollow out jade celts, creating surfaces for intricate incisions depicting jaguar faces and transformation scenes. Each piece requires weeks of labor, the stone's hardness demanding skill accumulated across lifetimes. Obsidian workers shape volcanic glass from Pachuca, equally distant from the Gulf Coast centers. They strike prismatic blades from prepared cores, each blow producing razor-sharp edges used for cutting, scraping, and ritual bloodletting. The black glass arrives as raw nodules, carried by traders who traverse established routes connecting distant resource zones to Olmec demand. Magnetite from Oaxaca becomes polished mirrors, their reflective surfaces holding symbolic power in ritual contexts. Pottery kilns produce vessels in distinctive styles, white-rimmed black ware, differential firing creating contrasting surfaces, forms ranging from simple cooking pots to elaborate ceremonial containers. Clay figurines emerge from these workshops, depicting humans, animals, and supernatural beings. Textile workers operate backstrap looms, creating fabrics from cotton and plant fibers, though no examples survive in the humid climate that preserves only stone and ceramic. The social hierarchy manifests in residential architecture. Elite compounds feature stone-faced platforms elevating structures above the floodplain, their proximity to ceremonial centers marking status. Commoner dwellings consist of pole and thatch construction, materials that leave minimal archaeological traces, but house the majority who sustained Olmec civilization through agricultural labor and specialized craft production. Between these extremes, artisan families occupy intermediate positions, their skills providing pathways to modest prosperity within a stratified society where birth largely determines destiny. Around 900 BCE, something shifts in San Lorenzo. The plazas where thousands once gathered for ceremonies fall silent. The workshops where artisans carved jade and ground obsidian cease their rhythmic sounds. But this is no sudden catastrophe. The archaeological record reveals deliberate, ritualized transformation. In the ceremonial precinct, laborers approach the colossal heads that have gazed across the plaza for generations. They topple Monument 1 to 9.4 feet of carved basalt, weighing 24 tons, with coordinated effort using wooden levers and rope. The head comes to rest face down in a prepared pit. Workers cover it with layers of colored earth, red, yellow, white. 20 monuments undergo similar treatment, each burial following precise ritual protocols. Some heads are separated from altar bodies. Others have facial features deliberately abraded, as if erasing the identity of the ruler portrayed. The systematic nature of this destruction speaks against invasion or violent conquest. These are controlled acts, possibly performed by the Olmec themselves, a civilization ritually dismantling its own sacred landscape. Stratigraphy reveals the burial deposits date to 900 BCE, marking San Lorenzo's transformation from living center to abandoned monument. Power flows southward to La Venta, which flourishes for 5 centuries. But environmental pressures accumulate. Pollen cores extracted from lake sediments reveal dramatic deforestation patterns. The forests that once surrounded ceremonial centers recede as populations demand more agricultural land and construction timber. Soil exhaustion follows intensive cultivation. The floodplains that sustained large populations show evidence of changing hydrology, possibly linked to broader climate shifts affecting Mesoamerica. By 400 BCE, La Venta follows San Lorenzo into silence. The Great Pyramid stands abandoned, its clay surfaces eroding. The buried mosaic pavements remain hidden beneath plaza floors, their jaguar masks unseen. Unlike San Lorenzo, La Venta shows less evidence of ritual monument burial. Perhaps the population dispersed gradually rather than performing collective termination ceremonies. Tres Zapotes emerges as the final major Olmec center, continuing traditions until 200 CE. Here, Monument C bears a long count calendar date corresponding to 31 BCE, the earliest such inscription known in Mesoamerica, demonstrating the persistence of Olmec intellectual achievements, even as political power fragments. The Tuxtla Mountains, source of the basalt that defined Olmec monumental art, show signs of volcanic activity during this period. Ash layers in geological cores suggest eruptions that may have disrupted trade routes and agricultural lands, adding environmental stress to social and economic pressures. In abandoned plazas, jungle vines climb over buried monuments, tree roots penetrate plaza surfaces, the tropical forest reclaims what human labor carved from wilderness. Yet the Olmec legacy persists, not in political continuity, but in the fundamental patterns they established. The Pyramid Plaza complex, the sacred ball game, the hieroglyphic writing, the calendar systems, these innovations survive the civilization that created them, awaiting rediscovery by cultures yet unborn. 4 centuries after La Venta's decline, new civilizations rise across Mesoamerica. In the Petén lowlands, Maya architects construct pyramid temples that echo Olmec forms, steep-sided platforms supporting ritual structures, plazas aligned to celestial events, bal courts positioned at ceremonial centers. At Tikal, Temple 1 rises 154 feet, its proportions and plaza relationship directly descended from La Venta's Great Pyramid. The Maya long count calendar, recording dates from a mythical starting point in 3114 BCE, derives from Olmec mathematical and astronomical innovations preserved at Tres Zapotes, where Stela C bears a long count date of 31 BCE, the earliest known example of the system that will track time through Maya civilization's thousand-year fluorescence. In the Oaxaca highlands, Zapotec scribes at Monte Alban carve glyphs that share structural principles with Olmec writing, combining pictographic and phonetic elements, recording names and dates, legitimizing royal power through written history. The iconography remains familiar: jaguars symbolizing earthly power, serpents representing celestial forces, were jaguar figures marking transformation between human and divine realms. Zapotec ball courts replicate the eye-shaped form established by Olmec builders, maintaining the ritual contest that connects human action to cosmic order. Across 3 millennia, over 200 ball courts appear throughout Mesoamerica, from Hohokam sites in Arizona to Maya centers in Honduras. Each follows the template the Olmec created: parallel playing surfaces, ritual significance linking the game to creation mythology, rubber balls produced from latex, contests determining divine favor. At Chichen Itza, around 900 CE, the Great Bal Court stretches 545 feet long, its scale magnifying but not altering the fundamental pattern established at San Lorenzo 12 centuries before. Teotihuacan's architects, building the Pyramid of the Sun around 200 CE, employ the Pyramid Plaza complex that defines Olmec ceremonial centers. Aztec rulers, claiming descent from Toltec nobility, preserve jade carving traditions and were jaguar iconography in their own imperial art. The symbolic vocabulary the Olmec developed, divine kingship expressed through monumental portraiture, ritual bloodletting connecting rulers to gods, cosmic duality embodied in jaguar serpent imagery, becomes the common language of Mesoamerican power. In 1862, José María Melgar encounters a colossal head near Tres Zapotes, beginning the modern rediscovery of Olmec civilization. Matthew Stirling's excavations at La Venta in the 1940s revealed the buried mosaic pavements, jade offerings, and architectural sophistication that established the Olmec as Mesoamerica's foundational culture. Subsequent archaeology identifies over 170 Olmec sites, traces trade networks extending 1,000 miles, documents the earliest writing in the Americas, and recognizes the Olmec as the mother culture from which Maya, Zapotec, and Aztec civilizations emerged. The colossal heads now rest in museums and site museums across Mexico, silent portraits of rulers whose names are lost, but whose vision shaped 3,000 years of civilization. Their legacy endures not in political continuity, but in the fundamental patterns they established, the questions they asked about power and cosmos, the artistic vocabulary they created, the architectural and calendrical systems they invented. The Olmec were first, and in being first, they defined what would follow. Thank you for journeying through the remarkable story of the Olmec, America's first civilization. Subscribe to explore more ancient worlds and the legacies that continue to shape our understanding of human achievement.